The headlines, the issues impacting you, all on This Week in Cincinnati on 9 on your side.
Welcome back. Today we are speaking with Kentucky Attorney General and Democratic candidate for governor Andy Beshear. We want to thank you for being here.
Excited to be here.
Thank you. Before the break, we had said we were going to talk about how you would fund a number of your proposals, namely increases in pay for teachers and other public servants, and then, of course, pension funding. So let's start with the increases in pay. What's your plan?
Well, the first thing we've got to do is to reverse some of the policies of this current governor that are costing our taxpayers and harming our families. There was a report that just came out that showed that Matt Bevin's Medicaid waiver, his attempt to kick 95,000 people off health care coverage they have for the very first time, was going to cost our state $270 million. That's almost twice what a teacher raise would cost. Second, we're going to roll back the raises that he has given to his closest buddies. You look at one of his closest friends, he gave a $370,000 state job to. We can't allow that here in state government. But the other thing we're going to do is we're going to prioritize. One of the most important things you can do in running for governor is to say, here are the most important things to me, and this is what we will always fund first. So I put out a plan, it's on andybeshear.com, that talks about an education-first budget, that we are always going to provide money to education before we hit our second, third, and fourth needs in Kentucky. It's about making an investment in our children, prioritizing a system that ultimately can create the workforce of the future, and to make sure that the next generation isn't living in a state that is the third poorest in the country, that we educate ourselves out of the hole that we're in and into the future that we want to see.
Okay, you talk about a $370,000 income that you'd like to pull back, but that's just one income, and we're talking lots of teachers with a big price tag.
That's what more than 8 teachers may earn right now. And you think about one state employee, the governor's buddy, that he's paying $370,000 for. That just being one example of our taxpayers' dollars being wasted.
Okay.
We're going to reverse those negative policies. We're going to make sure that we don't pay $270 million to kick people off health care, which, by the way, is twice as much as the other 4 states trying to do this put together.
Are those real dollars, though? Is that a real funding?
They are real dollars that he is going to pay to put together this system on the Medicaid waiver that would ultimately result in working people losing their coverage. If you look at Arkansas, most of the people that got kicked off in Arkansas, which federal courts froze the system, were working, did meet all the requirements that the Medicaid waiver supposedly was asking for, but still lost their coverage because of paperwork. I believe health care is a basic human right, and I'm going to make sure that every family has access to affordable health care, and we're going to reduce the price by continuing to aggressively go after pharmaceutical companies that are gouging us day in and day out.
Okay, pension.
Yes.
Pension reform. It's been a hot topic. What's your plan? Because this is a highly contentious topic.
So it starts with my belief that a pension is a promise. It's a promise we made to our public servants that protect our communities, that serve the neglected, and that teach our kids. And I believe that we cannot break that promise, and we have a duty to fund it. And we have to fund it in a way to where it's not on the line every 2 years, depending on the whims of the legislature. So this governor has had 2 approaches towards our pension system. First, he tried to illegally cut benefits of 200,000 public servants, and he tried to do it illegally. He put it in a sewer bill. That shows what he thinks of us in Kentucky. But I stood up to him and stopped him. So what is he doing now? He's pushing all the costs down to cities and counties in Kentucky. And what are they looking to do? Raise taxes to ultimately address it so they can still meet the basic needs of the community. So Matt Bevin is raising our taxes. He's just doing it indirectly to try to pay for this pensions problem. I don't think that's the way we ought to go. I believe we ought to look at new, dedicated revenue that goes solely into our pension system until solvent. That starts with expanded gaming. Listen, we're just 100 yards from a casino that has hundreds, if not thousands, of people from Kentucky every single day coming over and spending their entertainment dollars.
Are you going to be fueling addiction doing that?
Well, we already have any type of addiction that we have to deal with when Kentuckians spend over $1 billion a year in out-of-state casinos alone. And by regulating it, By legalizing it in Kentucky, it gives us an opportunity to do it right. Almost every bet now is electronic. It lets you track it. It lets you know when you need to step in and ultimately provide help. But we lose over $500 million of tax revenue to other states, where Ohio and Indiana, if they want, can help pay for their pension system or pay their roads. We're ultimately paying for other states. Even Tennessee now has sports betting, and we do not have any form of that in Kentucky. It's time we stop letting other states eat our lunch, and that we do it in a thoughtful way. Just imagine in western Kentucky, there's an area called Land Between the Lakes. It is as beautiful as Lake Tahoe, but we haven't had a new hotel there, I think, since I was born. There hasn't been a paint job at the hotel I go to probably in the last 20 years. This gives us an opportunity to have destination types of resorts, to bring in more tourists from the outside. There's an area in eastern Kentucky that attracts people from Europe for falconeering, for ATVs. But the people who go stay in Charleston, West Virginia, because they don't have the type of accommodations they're looking for. We can do this in a way that generates revenue going into our pension system and improves our economy. But a couple other things we need to do to fund our pension system.
And I'm going to have to interrupt you there because we have to go to break. We have to take a break. But we'll pick up the conversation, and I also want to talk with you about the Brent Spence Bridge when we return. So we will wrap up our conversation with Andy Beshear in just a moment.